Well, if this wasn't the easiest setup, well, that wasn't true. It took me a while to figure out how to get the correct window where I needed it. Hey, it's Death Trip, Smith School of Thought, and so far we've done a lot of streaming on uh, video games, but that's not what we created this character. What we created this channel to do. We created this channel to just be School of Thought means just kind of what we think. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's pigeonholed one thing. So I had a little extra time this morning and prepping for a Dungeons and Dragons one shot I'll be doing, I think, next week. Um, I've been toying with a character idea um, that I only got to use up to level 2 and one other um, real setting so far. I do have it running a different build of it um, in a series of one shots that is slowly turning out to be a short campaign. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. My Tuesday night game, it's amazing. Such a fun bunch um, to play with. And then I have a regular Sunday game that I had the pleasure of being invited to play in by some people that are designing a game module, and I'm getting to be one of the first, I think, 2 groups to really run it through um, before it gets sent out to the world. Murder in Averon. I am playing Aranis Dawa, created character for me. But that's not what we're doing here. Uh, I think we're taking a break of the campaign next week, so we're going to be doing a one shot. So I want to run this. I think we're running it at level 10. If we're not, I could always adjust it. So I'm going to build out a level 10 character. And if you don't know anything, let's do a quick background on the tools, just so you're aware. Um, the first and foremost is D&D Beyond. You can spend some money on D&D Beyond. There is a lot of different lot of information you can throw down. I don't know why this is only asking me for my favorites and not showing all. Interesting. Um, but what I wanted to show you on D&D Beyond is the Beyond Basics roles. Free for anybody that wants to roll up and mess with them. I bring you here to get you to the character sheet. Now, we will not be using this to build, but if you wanted a pen and paper character sheet for 5th edition, 5.5E, they call it, or 2024, you'll also hear it referred to. But we'll get back to that in a second. And what I utilize these on, and apparently there's other sites out there. This is the only one I use, is Start Playing. I'm not sponsored by any of them. Any burgeoning followers will know that I'm just starting this out for fun, and if it goes somewhere, it goes somewhere. But in the meantime, just trying to share some of the things that I enjoy. So Start Playing is a good place to go and find some of those games, and it's not just Dungeons and Dragons. If you look, they offer a ton of different, things. Hunter the Reckoning. Honestly, that doesn't even sound fun. 2 very kids on brooms. So, stuff you've never heard of, but people will run games, and oftentimes they'll run them for free. I was briefly trying to get into another campaign, which I ultimately didn't enjoy, so I left. But it started with a series of just free one-shots, and it gave us the opportunity to try to get to know one another, to see how the dungeon master plans on running his games, and yeah, so don't be afraid. Don't think you're going to have to spend a ton of money. Because you can see these first 2 right here. This person's running a campaign levels 1 to 20. Looks like it's starting off this morning in about 45 minutes. $30 a session. right next to your first RPG, Search for the Fallen Light Pathfinder 2nd Edition, $5. You know, you'll find things for you. Um, this is usually where I start searching, looking for stuff. And if I happen to have an extra $20 and some free time, I will join in a random one shot. You know, as I've said before, I play games. I don't really watch too much TV. Um, that's how I unwind. That's how I relax. But D&D is one of those ways. So that's start playing. I recommend you taking a look. Now let's just go back to the character sheet because we're not going to see this as a finished product looking like this. We'll see the digital version. But for those of you that don't know, we're just going to do a quick rundown. I don't want to bore everybody with every little detail of the D&D sheet because that's not what I'm trying to do. I want people to get hopefully interested in the game of Dungeons and Dragons. And if I try to info vomit on you, I'm probably going to trigger what a lot of you already has in your head that, oh, it's too complicated. There's so many rules. You know, aren't you just roll a bunch of dice? I mean, yeah, this is what the sheet is for. This is your skeleton on how you set up your play. This is going to tell you, you know, whether you're tall or short, fat or skinny, nice or mean, magic, swords, bows. You know, it tells you what you do. It's then the tool for how you decide to play the game. And I always say, when people say they don't know how to play Dungeons and Dragons, do you have an imagination? And if you happen to have an imagination, which I've heard everybody does, you can play this game, and you don't even need a sheet. You might need a die. I do have a set. They're not the most camera-ready set of dice. But, I mean, if you can get your hands on just a D20, it's a 20-sided die is all that means. Yeah, this looks good. This die looks good when it's lit up because it's got a matte black finish with some purple kind of, it's supposed to be like gem laid, inlaid for the numbers. But if you could just have this to just add a little bit of randomness, you're well on your way. And then it's you play it however you play it. You just have the rules in order for it to be a game. Otherwise, it's just willy-nilly and everyone's just going to be a superhero and destroy every dragon they see because that's how they say the story is going to go. There has to be some parameters. And this is yours. So real quick, things to point out. Name, background. There are pretty specific backgrounds, and I should have... Let's back up for a second. Oh, honestly, I thought that would have been the faster route. All right, let's pop that out for a second so that I can do this. And let's go to backgrounds. All right, I think that was here. And they've got tons of different backgrounds. Now, overwhelming, again, I get it. So many of these, though, are add-ons. Different modules that came out, which are just basically books, which have pre-prepared stories, classes, backgrounds, spells, all sorts of stuff. Don't get too wigged out by it. You can narrow it down by a number of different ways. So 5.5e core rules, that's just going to bring you, well, it's only supposed, oh, I forgot to filter it. There we go. To the base ones that come in the Player's Handbook, which they're the same ones that are in here. And all they do is kind of, give you a little bit of flavor If you're a cleric and you're an acolyte, you spent some time in a temple or a church or some sort of religious body, or perhaps you're a soldier, a charlatan, uh, criminal, a wayfarer, hermit, a farmer. Um, I'm coming up with them on the top of my head. Meanwhile, they're all listed in front of me. But then, it's a game of imagination. That's where all these other ones come in. Somebody somewhere said, you know what? I want to be this creature related character. Aberrants are a certain type of creature, and somehow you must have some sort of blood involved in it, maybe. You've got some creature blood. Anthropologists, archaeologists, kind of simple things. And wherever your mind can take you to flesh it out so that when you encounter something in the game, you know how your character would reply to it. They wouldn't just uh, change depending on the weather, as it were. Um, a farmer's probably going to think like a farmer. And uh, before I forget, it kind of narrows this down further by, let me go up to the top, your features and proficiencies. Your features are going to give you unique uh, abilities for your character based off of your background. Like a farmer, it said tough was down there, and makes sense. You're working on the farm. You probably have calloused up hands. You probably have that good old country boy strength. Um, so it just adds more flavor. Um, but again, if you work with your dungeon master, your DM, or your game master, GM, however you want to define it, you might get some leeway, or you might get somebody on Start Playing that says, "Hey, we go by the rules as written. So if you're a farmer, you get tough as your feat, and that's just what it is because that's the rules." Other people have the rules of cool, which, hey, that sounds cool, which my build we'll see in a little bit is kind of in that. The background is very different. The class, race are very. I've tweaked various things to try to get this the emulation of a fictional character that I'm trying to play the idea in the D&D world. And then with each one of these backgrounds, you obviously have a little extra proficiency because if you're an acolyte, you probably have some good insight on other people, on how they function, how they think, and of course religion. That kind of goes without saying if you're playing a religious-based character like a paladin or a cleric. So again, fleshing out some more of that, how your character plays. While we're on that subject of how, I also wanted to bring up, and I think it's on the second page. You know what? I think in 5.5e, it's just oh, there it is, alignment. It goes to show you how frequently I use paper sheets these days. Alignment is, for lack of a better term, your character's character. Let's see if they've got here. Well, we can certainly search it. They have a very extensive search, so we can just go alignment. We'll continue to use the tools provided. And we want the most current one, which you see it says Legacy, which is an older version, 2014, which is original 5th edition. But you don't see any of those things. Well, then we've got our Monster Manual version. I don't know why we don't have the. Oh, there you go. There's the Player's Handbook version. Bang. Creature's alignment broadly describes its ethical attitudes and ideals. Alignment is a combination of two factors. One identifies morality, good, evil, or neutral. The other describes attitude towards order, lawful, chaotic, or neutral. These factors allow for 9 possible combinations, such as lawful good, and neutral evil. Um, and if I thought about it, I'm not going to search for it right now, but you can find an image where it's just a 9 block. If any of you are old enough to know the Brady Bunch, where they had the little, the kids and the adults, and then Alice the maid in the middle. Same idea, just imagine uh, all your goods on the left, all your evils on the right, where you're going to behave more good or more evil. Your neutrals in the middle, where it depends on the situation or circumstance. And then the other way is lawful, neutral, and chaotic. Well, how would you go about your world? Are you defined by rules? Um, a evil character can be defined by rules. Devils in Dungeons and Dragons are very lawful. You know, they are going to try to swindle you whatever chance they can to get your soul or whatever the situation your GM paints for you. But if you manage to get one up on them, they're going to stick to their guns. Like you said, all right, this was the deal, this was the deal. Where a chaotic evil character, you don't know what they're going to do. They are the type that are just going to go and try to eliminate your party. And I'm dancing around YouTube terminology, but you're trying to kill your party just because. Um, create chaos. There's no right or wrong. It's just whatever I feel like doing, or because I might be chaotic good, and I'm very much, that's the character background I'm going to be building, is going to be chaotic good, which you'll see as we get a little bit more into the description of it. See why. But ultimately, his goals are to do good. It's just a matter of how he goes about to do it. Um, you almost might want to think, I guess Robin Hood might be a good example. He's stealing, murdering, it's alluded to, but for the common good. There was my cats are about to start a fight. Um, it's about beating the evil Prince John and the Sheriff of Nottingham. Nottingham. Um, so that's alignment. Your species, you've heard of elves and dwarves at this point, uh, inspired allegedly from Lord of the Rings. I say allegedly because I don't know for sure. It's just what I've heard in passing over time. And again, just like alignment, there are so many different. Um, scroll up. So many different species. Many of them just core, like we spoke about before, which these are your core ones for 5.5e. And then you start seeing, this is a perfect example, Astarion's Book of Hungers. They had a module based off of Astarion from Baldur's Gate 3, where they introduced a Dhampir. So now your dungeon master and start playing might say, hey, whatever published race is on the table, it's good. So if you want to be a flamekin, you can be a flamekin. But then you'll have a lot of people that will just say core rules. So you pick what you pick. I tend to just stay with human. I like, I'm human, so I have a hard time kind of getting into the mindset of many of the other species, which you'll see in some of my tweak when we get to my character build on why my human character is a dragonborn. We'll see when we get there. So this gives you a lot more character. Like my dwarves always sound like, a Scotsman or Torbjorn from Overwatch. Your elves tend to be a little bit more human, straight up, unless maybe it's a high magic user and their voices get a little higher and gentler with a certain amount of power. But I don't know how a tiefling is, so it's hard for me to feel that character. But play whatever you feel speaks to you. It's half the fun. Subclass we'll get to whenever you get a class. Well, forgot the classes. why am I going to get to classes, subclasses before I get to classes? So let's go to classes. Classes are your stereotypical archetypes in a fantasy setting. Um, Barbarians, bards, clerics, monks, rogues, warlocks. Um, and as you can see, it's been expanded upon plenty. This has been a popular one that I've been bumping into a lot. This gunslinger version. And there's the 2014 versions, and they are different. So definitely take a look and check with your dungeon master to see what rules sets they're actually following with. But with each class at level 3 in that class, I don't mean you becoming level 3, because you can pick multiple classes. You can be a barbarian bard. Level 1, you're a barbarian. Level 2, you take bard. At level 3, in your character, you're not getting what I'm about to say. You're just your character is level 3. When your class gets to a level, so your barbarian gets to level 3, or whatever else, then you start getting into your subclasses. These give even more flavor to your character. So a barbarian, you think a wild warrior, Conan the Barbarian, obviously, as an archetype. But then you get a little bit further in it. This one, Path of the Berserker, channels rage. The Wild Heart, they're kin to animals. World Tree, the kind of your Thor archetype. Path of the Zealot, you've got some religious background to you. And just further flavoring how your character is going to play out. We will be multi-classing into my build. And we'll be doing 5 levels of Paladin and 5 levels of Warlock. So at once we hit level 3 in each of those classes, we'll get a subclass in each, and we'll see how that plays out when we get there. What else? Things to know: armor class. That is how hard you are to hit. Your hit points is your vitality. Once your hit points go to 0, you become unconscious. It is possible to die, and even permanently die, in Dungeons and Dragons. How strict that is really depends on your DM. You can get killed in one shot in Dungeons and Dragons, and you're done. Dunzo. No being brought back. Adds, that risk onto the game. Other things, hit dice, your GM could get more into. It has to do with your hit points, both in generation and healing. Death saves and failures. That's a simple, where you do get knocked out, you do have an opportunity to kind of clear your head and come back into the fight. Proficiency bonus, well, we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to do these first. Initiative, now, because these all kind of reflect off these. The big 6, your stats. This, it really is the skeleton part. You don't really have to think too much. If your character has a high strength, they're strong. They have a low strength, they're weak or frail or sickly. Well, constitution may have something to do with it, sickly. So strength is strong. I mean, it's kind of common sense, I would think. How much you can move, carry, how much damage you do with a melee weapon. Dexterity is how quick you are, how able you are with a ranged weapon. Constitution is your health. Very much affects your hit points. And whether or not you can take some damage. Very important, actually, for some spellcasters. If they're concentrating on a spell and they take some damage, they have to have the constitution to be able to absorb the blow while still concentrating. Intelligence is going to be used for a lot of these skills you see beneath it: Arcana, History, Investigation, Nature, Religion. It's also your primary stat for your wizards and artificers, which are a newer. A lot of people consider them 5.5e core, but they really kind of came out with a module. Um, but I've seen artificers in almost every other game I play in. Wisdom would be your clerics and your druids. You know, maybe they didn't study books all their lives, but they've lived enough life to be able to know things like, you know, learn some medicine. They can perceive things in the world that maybe others wouldn't. Charisma is very much how much somebody likes you, doesn't like you, might be scared by you, unintimidated by you. Um, Also, your casting ability for warlocks and sorcerers, just where your magic just kind of comes out of you, not a wizard or an artificer who's studying. And depending on how, you know, good or poor you are in each of these stats is how successful you can be in each of these different situations, skill checks they're called, which are below each one of the categories. Um, if you're trying to look for a trap, your dungeon master will say, well, why don't you roll for perception? And we're not going to get into the mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons, but you roll, add your modifier, and based on what that score is, you either pass or fail on whatever the check was. Um, and you can see how you move from there. Your weapons and damage cantrips, which are spells that you can use without any resource tracking. Class features are different bonuses because if you're a fighter, you have some abilities that a rogue does not have. Some of those would fit right in there. Same thing with species. A dwarf has very good dark vision because of their times under a mountain, where a human is versatile. So you'll see those things in there. Feats, like we talked about in the background, were your species. Your feats would go there. Your equipment training, you'll start seeing down below. You know, are you trained how to properly use a 5.5 foot longsword, or do you just want to stick to maybe a 3.5 foot short sword and have a little bit more control and not as much training? Um, are you able to wear heavy chain or plate mail armor, or do you prefer just a simple robe or leather armor, something a little bit quieter, more pliable? Tools, maybe you're a thief and you need tools to be able to pick a lock, or an alchemist and you want to make potions. You'd have to have these proficiencies there. And that proficiency simply means you have some skill at it. So, word vomited all that for skills and equipment training proficiencies. To go back to proficiency bonus. Proficiency bonus just means you've been alive as a humanoid generally for however long your life is. You know how to do some things. You know how to tie your shoes, you know, and wipe your butt. So a lot of times you just get, you know, basic existence proficiency is how I kind of look at it. Um, so that gets added to a lot of your stats if you don't have better proficiency in it. I might have a very high strength score, and your starting proficiency is only +2, but my strength rolled very high, and I might be a +3 in my strength. So for an athletics check, I would just use my +3. Again, mechanics, you'll get to it as you play. Look for some learn to play games on Start Playing, and there's a ton of them. Right here, Phandelver in the Face of Darkness, beginner friendly, $15. Every other week, not a big commitment. I was just talking about this game to somebody the other day. So yeah, initiative just means when a conflict starts, a battle starts, you roll, and it just determines your order of who goes first. Your speed is how much distance you can cover in a turn. Your size, simply that. Are you a small little gnome, or are you a giant Goliath? Uh, a lot of, like these things matter because I might be a weak character, but I can still throw a gnome or shove a gnome. But that Goliath, he could just put their hand on my head while I swing and try to hit him, and I can't budge him. So there is some importance to that, and they do get up to like huge, maybe even bigger. I don't even know. I'm not a DM, so I'm not as familiar with how big creatures get. Passive perception. That's just simply, you know, you're walking through the mall and you all of a sudden notice this pair of shoes that you've always wanted happens to be on sale. You weren't looking for it, but you just happen to notice it. Passive perception. There is passive insight and another one too. Um, the last one, obviously, it doesn't come up very often, and passive insight, I think, has only occurred to me once in the year and a half that I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons. Um, your second page is almost entirely your spells, and that's everybody loves to throw their spells in Dungeons and Dragons. That's where a lot of the fun is. Not going to get into a lot of detail of your abilities, your modifiers, even your spell slots, other than to say that cantrips, like I said, require no resource tracking. Spells do. You have a finite number of them, depending on your class, depends on how they regenerate, or how you get them back. And if you really want to get into, and I've thankfully not had this DM yet, there are different, what's the word to it? This isn't the area for it. Components. Whether it's a verbal component where you have to speak the words, somatic, where you move your hands around to create a spell. Think Doctor Strange when he does a little sling ring thing, really anything. And material. Like you can revive somebody in this game, but it requires, I think, a diamond. Diamonds are hard to come by, which I guess a revive spell should be hard to come by. Most games I play in, they ignore the material components. The most strict I've ever seen was like if it's a powerful enough spell, they were going to require the components just to make it that much more unique to when you can use the spell. I don't know if this could be word vomit scaring you all, but spells. And I'm going to spell level, casting time, school. I can't even filter them. Oh, I can. Do we have a source? Yes, because I don't want to Oh, no. Source category. There we go. 5.5E chord. Core, not chord. All sorts of different things. Like there's just too many. Like you see there's 20 pages and how many on each page. Whether it's your iconics shooting a fireball, healing somebody, changing the way you look, influencing the way somebody thinks. Man, I can't even begin to do justice to the variety of spells that are out there, to really allow you to that wondrous kind of way to solve problems in combat that it's different than a type of just bang it with a sword. Sometimes that's fun too. I enjoy playing champion fighters, especially in one shots. Not too much you don't have to worry about too much. But here you can find creative ways to solve the problems. It's a lot of fun. Can be a lot, especially a wizard, because a wizard can end up with a lot of spells, I understand. So just keeping track of what you have ready to use, because you may know a bunch, but you can only have so many ready. and then using them at the appropriate time. That's a ton. I'm not going to lie. And this is where we track it. Um, some more flavor stuff. What does your character look like? You want to put a little bit of the backstory and some more details of their personality to help keep you focused, or your DM may ask for it so they can keep you in line, make sure you're playing the way you said you wanted your character to play. Different languages you might speak, your equipment you might have, and your coins. So that was a somewhat lengthy explanation, lengthier than probably I wanted to do. But let us get to creating a character. So let's create a character. It's going to bring us to this creation wizard. I don't really ever use the quick builder or pre-made because, especially since I'm doing something more specific, I'm going to need to build out a little bit. But just for fun, let's just click on quick builder because I've never clicked on it. I just want to see. Okay, so it looks like it's giving you a way to get yourself rolling. Like, what does your character look like? And it's making you think about how your character looks like to begin with. That might determine all the rest of this stuff. Or maybe you know what kind of class you want to be, but you really don't know where to go from there. All right, so that's a cool little place for a newbie to start. If you really don't want to be bothered, or you don't have time, let's say you did join a one shot and you only have 20 minutes. We got pre-made characters. And as you can see, it tells you, well, these are all from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon from the 80s. Except I don't remember a Nico. And you can get started with characters that somebody has already put together for you. Oh, there's your Baldur's Gate original folks. Look at those. Those are from one of the starter sets that you can get in real life. Anyway, nice place to start if you don't want to think about it and you just want to roll something that's rolling already. All right, so character's name, still not sure yet. I am using a couple of names in the tests that I've been doing. Probably going to stick with it, but I'm not too worried about it right now. But let's just put Paladin Warlock build. And now we're going to go to our sources. We are strictly using 5.5 edition rules, so I'm going to, that's a new one. This contains content from the D&D Beyond drops, the subscription library. Excuse me. I'm not really sure, so when in doubt, don't. Indigestion all of a sudden. My apologies. Look at this. Okay. Partner content, I never really mess with this. You can see some of the partners they have worked with where you can find some of their info in there. I don't ever use it. Some places will allow you, so make sure you ask. Enables dice rolling if you want to be able to digitally roll dice to determine some of your statistics. You could also roll it offline if you want. It's up to you. There's also other ways around. Optional features we're not going to worry about. Advancement, hit point. Hit point we're going to stay with fixed because I don't want to have to roll for my hit points every time. I'm going to get a certain amount every time I level, rather than you can roll. When you roll, you could get more hit points, but you could also get less. It would be suck if you only wound up getting 3 hit points because you rolled a 1. We are going to have feats, and they are going to have prerequisites, multi-class requirements. You can't. In my build, I have to make sure I'm a paladin first, so I meet the strength requirement, or at least build my warlock strong enough so that I can get that minimum of a 13 strength. in Paladin so that I can actually pick Paladin. But we're going to start with Paladin and multi-class into Warlock for reasons. Encumbrance just means you can't just carry. It's not like a video game where somehow you pull out a giant rocket launcher followed by a chain gun followed by a sword. You only have so much you can carry. Encumbrance is just going to mean that the more you carry, the slower you might go, or you might not be able to move at all. Um, Very common thing is a lot of people ignore the weight of coins just because everyone wants to have loot in Dungeons and Dragons. You'd hate to have to deal with the fact that the coins actually weigh something and significant too. As you can see, 50 coins is a pound, so that can get out of hand in a hurry. Ability score modifier display, that's going to be on your character sheet. That's just a matter of the bigger number, is it going to be your actual score, like let's say a 15 for strength, or the modifier that provides, which a 15 I think is a +2. I think it's a +2, and that's what you're going to use most of the time is the modifier. So, yeah, once you play enough, you should know that a 15 is a +2. But I find it just simpler to have the modifier there, and you just know, oh, my strength modifier is +2. We are going to do this private for right now because there's no reason for anybody else. I will have to make it public before the one shot. And let's move on. All right, like I said, here's our core classes. And since we marked off only those, we don't have any of the added ones, not even the Artificer, which often shows up on the bottom here. And this character, I guess I should talk a little bit about it. The inspiration is a DC Comics character named Jason Blood, or Etrigan the Demon. And in their story, Jason Blood was an Arthurian knight that was about to be felled in battle. So Merlin is a sense to save Jason so that they might defeat Morgan Le Fay, I believe, was the enemy. Summoned Etrigan the Demon and bound him to Jason to save his life. But now you have got this demon, obviously chaotic evil demon, attached to this noble Arthurian knight. And I thought, what a fantastic idea to play in Dungeons and Dragons. How would I do it? How would I do it? So I've been toying with it. And I thought Arthurian knight, okay, could simply just be a a fighter, and turn him into a soldier. And I wanted to kind of really drill down on the dichotomy of it, the good and the evil combined of it. So I decided to go with Paladin, which are holy warriors. I'll give it a little description here. Paladins live on the front lines of cosmic struggle, united by their oaths against the forces of annihilation. They are what is called a half-caster class. You have your martial classes, your fighters, and your rogues. You've got your casters, your warlocks, your wizards, and your sorcerers. And then you've got half-casters, like a paladin, which they are a martial class. They wear heavy armor. They can use all the weapons. But they also have some magic. In their times studying or communing with their god has given them some abilities. So I thought my Jason Blood, who I named Jason Sangre, which is, I think, Spanish for blood, he was that holy warrior that was struck down. And in my story, a celestial bound, or what's the word, compelled by the god Suni, I think is the name that I found. And I don't remember the details of Suni, so we won't get into that. But we're not going to get into the whole, you know, cosmic world of D&D, but it's massive, or can be. Um, so this good holy warrior will be bound to a demon from the abyss in the same way, and that's where the warlock will come in. But let's take a quick look. All right, let's back up. We're doing a lot of talking about the concept, but not what's right in front of us. So a paladin's primary abilities are strength and charisma. So they're very strong in melee, but their magic casting ability is charisma, but it also allows them to be potentially very strong in intimidation, persuasion, deception. Um, just it's how well people, people like them, um, as a loose terminology. Your hit point die is your D10, which other than the barbarian, which is a D12, is the highest way to get your hit points. You'll roll. I never roll, but I'm pretty sure it's you roll your hit die, in this case D10, add a Constitution modifier, and there you get your hit points, I think. Definitely not an expert in that. I just let the computer do the work. You get proficiency, that's what this means, saves in wisdom saves and charisma saves. That's getting even further into the mechanics than we've already gotten into. So I would allow that to be something you learn from your GM when you play. Let them explain. And if you need a little bit more detail, look it up in D&D Beyond. You get your core paladin traits, which is some of it we were already talking about, but here we get our skill proficiencies because we picked a paladin. We're going to get 2 of these. And as you notice, we're looking at strength and charisma, and I think medicine and religion are wisdom. Okay, so there's your strength, charisma, wisdom. There's your skills associated. Proficient in all the weapons, proficient in all the armor and shields, and then it starts you off with some basic equipment. I almost always recommend going this, but maybe your guy or girl doesn't use a longsword to start. Maybe they use a mace or a flail or a trident. Foreshadowing. See what you can use as starting equipment with your dungeon master. You do have the option to just take 150 gold pieces and then you can kit out your person, your character, however you want. Just obviously within the 150 gold pieces. And there is an economy in there, and it does have a hierarchy. Gold, I think, is the second most valuable coin, I think. You start with some basic abilities based off of your character. Here we can heal with a touch. So just imagine she's going and praying over there and giving a little bit of help to another character or yourself. And you can see it's a resource you have to manage. So you only get 5 of them, and I think they come back when you take a long rest. Again, more mechanics you can figure out later. Rest obviously is where you recover a lot of things. Your spell casting right here, just kind of not really showing you in the book, or doesn't show you the chart in here, but it does in the book, of how many spells you can have per level. And Paladin, I don't think gets one level 1. You'll see that your spellcasting ability is Charisma, which we talked about. And a Focus, this is one of those material things that most GMs just kind of let you get away with. They just kind of say, oh yeah, you have your Focus. Your Weapon Mastery, you're going to pick a couple of weapons that you get extra bonuses on because you're really intense training in them. And how do you fight? Do you fight defensively? Do you fight archery? Do you use a great two-handed weapon? All these different things. But, we're not going to go down this whole list because I'm realizing now it's doing every level. We don't want to do that. We've already vomited enough stuff nearly an hour into this. Okay, so right here we're going to go a lot faster because I don't want to get into a lot of the little details. I'm just going to tell you what I'm picking, maybe a why, and we'll move on. But we know we're going to take 5 levels of Paladin, and we know we're going to add 5 levels of Warlock. And now it's not blocking any of them out because I'm multi-classing at character creation. So this is kind of a bad way to show you because you're not going to see those prerequisites. But all right, adding our Warlock. Warlock's quest for knowledge that lies hidden in the fabric of the multiverse, piecing together arcane secrets to bolster their own power. More specifically, Warlocks get their power from somewhere else. In our case, it's going to be a celestial being. Our Warlock is a demon whose, innate magic comes from the abyss, but he now has this celestial patron that has summoned him and bound him to Jason Blood, or Jason Sangre. So now he's going to get additional powers from that patron, in addition to his dark dark evil powers. So, Jason Blood, Etrigan the Demon. Jason Blood is just the human form that you see generally, very swashbuckling in today's standards, Englishman, well-traveled. Obviously, not obvious. He's been around since Arthurian times, and he exists now. The demon has given him extended life. But of course, if he's ever to separate, he dies. So yeah, all right. So here's our evil side, our Warlock. And that's going to be 5. And our starting class, and that's going to be important because our starting class is going to affect our hit points and our, if I started with Warlock first, I wouldn't be able to wear all that armor and have all those weapons. And I really want it to have the capabilities of the magic, but deep down, Jason Blood still wants to be, or Jason Sangre still wants to be that paladin, that shining, knight in shining armor type. Really doesn't want to have to rely on those powers and abilities. But how I flavor it is when he does have to use the magic, or if the battle that you're in is intense enough, the demon, whose name is Zaphen, it's actually a demon name somewhere, I looked it up. There's some religious person somewhere that's freaking out that you speak demons' names, but then the demon comes out more and more. There is a split personality I play with it too that I do enjoy. It doesn't get corny, at least I hope not, because I don't play Jason Sangre as too much of a goody-goody, although he is lawful good. And I don't allow me to play the Zaphen part too evil, because then you're just blowing up your party. Yeah, you can have some humorous parts in there, but really, I like to have an integrated character with the other characters. I don't want to alienate somebody by forcing a play style. I play how I want to play, but I also play collaboratively. I don't just want it to be the Death Trip show. So let's quick bang out our class features. On D&D Beyond, you can create a certain number of characters for free. After that, you'll have to delete and remake, or you can get a subscription and you can have unlimited amount. All right, so this paladin, he is good at religion because he considers himself a good boy, and he's athletic. He's a soldier, so he is very much ready to fight. We know about lay hands. We know our spell casting is charisma. Weapon mastery is going to be the long sword we start with. I always like using a long sword. It's just my power fantasy, I suppose. Then you see the word sap. That's your mastery. And you see if I hit a creature with the longsword, that creature has disadvantage on its next attack roll before the start of your next turn. So it just gives me a little extra boon, but I don't want to get into the mechanics of it. So ask your DM. The other one is going to be a trident because of reasons that will become evident in gameplay, which you won't see here. Zafin can summon a trident to his hand. It really could be any martial weapon, pretty much. But I like the idea of the trident. And I'm not going to lie, the image that I created using AI did happen to have a trident, so I just went with it. My fighting style, we're going to have, you could be a blessed warrior, which I give you some more magical spells out of the cleric book. But I'm magical side of the paladin as possible without really hindering the character. So in that said, I'm not going to have the extra magic because I want him to be more the warrior side. So we're going to take a fighting style and we're going to take defense just to make him a little tankier because if I'm wearing armor, I get extra armor class. So if my armor that I'm wearing and my shield brings me to a 16, I get a 17. That just makes me that much harder to hit. Our level 3 subclass, and you could look at these in the player's handbook. It'll tell you all the different ways we're going. I'm going with Oath of Devotion. I think it describes it a little bit. Upholds the ideals of justice and order. For a paladin, your oath is very important because you must adhere to your oath. So if I don't uphold the ideals of justice and order, and the GM is not holding me to it, I might do something really out of character. And then at that point, what does a paladin mean if he doesn't have any, not thinking of the word, but says one thing and does another. Let's say it that way. Then you could become, if you've played Baldur's Gate, an oath breaker. I've never played a paladin past level 5 before, so I have no idea if that's a real thing in the real game, but yeah. Gives you some basic spells, which we will get now that we're past level 1 on our past paladin level 1. Remember, character level is one thing, goes to 20. Your class level's a different thing. You can be 12 different classes and have various numbers of levels in each class. All right, level 4, you get an extra feat, or you can improve your ability scores. I do not remember. I do have a planned out build, which I will have to change this because I do not remember what I picked for this to begin with. Might have just been ability score improvement. Or lucky. No, it was lucky. So I'm lucky I can use these luck points to impose advantage or disadvantage on rolls. Again, mechanics, don't want to get into it. 5th level, I also get an extra attack as a paladin, and Faithful Steed, which is a neat little thing. You have your own ghostly little steed. It doesn't even have to be a horse if you don't want it to be. It's up to you and your DM. All right, so we quick went through our paladin class features. Let's do our spells. We have nothing prepared right now. We're going to add spells, and we see right here we get 6. And you notice there's no cantrips. We don't get any cantrips to start with. So every spell we use, we have some class features that are magical. But every spell requires a slot. And we can know 6 spells. So I'm just going to, for the sake of moving along, I like to have Cure Wounds. I like to have Where's Compelled Duel? And Detect Magic. Okay, for level 1, and then actually I have one more level 1. Maybe I'll just go Divine Smite. Not going to go through all these as to not overwhelm you guys. Let's say we also can have a Shining Smite and a Prayer of Healing. Those feel very paladin iconic. So we're going to go with those. Warlock. All right, class features. Eldritch Invocations. These are extra powers you get from your patron. As you can read it, you have Unearthed Eldritch Invocations, pieces of forbidden knowledge that imbue you with an abiding magical ability or other lessons. You gain one invocation of your choice, such as Pact of the Tome. Invocations are described in the Eldritch Invocations options section. And it's got some prereqs. Let's just take Eldritch Blast is the most damage doing cantrip that is only available, quote unquote, only available to warlocks. And this adds your charisma modifier to it, so it does even more damage. I don't remember. I think I have dark vision, so I'm not going to get that. We want Pact of the Blades, so we can summon our trident to us. And I want Devil's Sight, so we can see through any darkness, even magical. I want Eldritch Smite, because, you know, smiting is something paladins do. But here we can get an extra, so it's like I can smite and then throw this on top of it. Just extra damage. Ascendant Step, I keep wanting to click on this. Levitate. Yeah, I like the idea of levitating just as a... it's a flavor thing only. You can find like Thirsting Blade. Not a bad thing either. Gain extra attack feature for your packed weapon only. With that feature, you can attack twice, so get extra attacks. The more you can attack, the more damage you can do in a round, the better. Magical Cunning. I don't even know what this is. You may perform an esoteric rite for 1 minute. You regain extended pack magic spells. So remember I said rests are normally the way you recover your spell slots and such? Well, there's one way. All right, my subclass for this particular build, because he was saved by a celestial interfering on Sune's bidding, he has a celestial patron, which gives him certain spells. As you see, at level 3, we get Aid, Cure Wounds, which I guess I don't need Cure Wounds then back here. Back up. Let's get rid of Cure Wounds. Or you could have it twice. You cast one at will and then one on a spell slot. That's up to you. I might do that, actually. I think I like the idea of that. Because Jason would want to keep helping in any way he can. All right, back down here. Celestial spells, you get Guiding Bolt. Look at that. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get 6 at level 3. Now, mind you, you can only use 2. But you have 6 available to you. So it gives you a lot of room to kind of figure out how you want to play it. And you see some of the other spells that come to you later on. Healing Light, another one I don't know. You gain the ability to channel celestial energy, to heal wounds. You have a pool of dice. Oh, so even more healing. So we've got Lay on Hands, Healing Light, Cure Wounds, Prayer of Healing. I really like this idea, and then I flavor it by either it being a dark energy healing, or maybe Zaphon really can't stand the holy power that's coming out from him. It actually causes him discomfort. You know, there's lots of ways you can play this. We've got another ability score improvement or feat. This one I want Warcaster, because that will do a number of things, but one of them is it will no longer where is it? We get our charisma goes up more by 1. We get advantage on Constitution saving throws, reactive spell, and I really swore maybe it's spell sniper. I think I'm thinking spell sniper. Yep, you can cast in melee. Since we were trying to be in melee all the time, I still want to be able to blast out an Eldritch Blast once in a while just for flavor. Like maybe the demon character is getting so frustrated but just using this sword that he blasts out this Eldritch energy. So I like that idea. So we quick, quote unquote, trademark pending, went through building our character out to level 10. Let's move on with our features and spells, I should say. Move on to our background. Here we want to choose our option, which I like the Wayfarer because it gives a charisma bonus. And that's what I'm going to be looking for, is a background that gives a charisma bonus. So I pick Wayfarer because Jason knows he's kind of cursed. He stays out and he stays moving. He's not, not really trying to stand out, trying to blend into the background. So you can see you grew up on the streets surrounded by similarly ill-fated cast-offs, a few of them friends and a few of them rivals. You slept where you could and did odd jobs for food. At times when the hunger became unbearable, you resorted to theft. Still, you never lost your pride and never abandoned hope. Fate is not yet finished with you. Gives us some stealth proficiency and thieves tools, which I like, which I would just flavor as the demon just being shady and doing demon-y type things. Also gives us a little insight, like the demon's been around and Jason's been around for so long that they kind of know the human condition a little bit and might pick up on something that others wouldn't. All right. Here we get our bonuses based off our background. You can increase 3 of your 6 stats by 1, or as you can see, 1 by 2 and 1 by 1. That's the one I normally go with. And I like to boost up charisma and maybe dexterity, which will help with our armor class and our, dexterity saving throws, which happen a lot. Here's all flavor. Do with as you like. I said he's going to be chaotic good. As you can read, chaotic good creatures act as their consequence directs, with little regard for what others expect. A rebel who waylays a cruel baron's tax collectors and uses the stolen money to help the poor is probably chaotic good. Robin Hood, like we talked about earlier. And the rest is sometimes your GMs want it. Other times it's just for you and your other characters, so they know who they're dealing with. I do have a fleshed out backstory that I can put in there, and I have this built out in a different way to level 20, and I have it over there, but I'm not going to put it up in this one. We're going to choose our species. Now here's where I need my DM to be a little bit flexible with me, because he's a human and demon, right? But I want, because of his demonic side, I want the human part to have some extra benefit. And since immortality is really off the table, I thought, well, maybe the demon had some resistances or some extra ability for being a demon. And that brought me to Dragonborn, because depending on what color dragon you are, you get resistance to a particular damage type, but then you also get a breath weapon based off of that damage type. So I thought demon, fire, it's more devilly, but fire, brimstone for the demon. So I thought he'd be a red dragonborn, but I don't want him to look like a red dragonborn. He's going to be a human. He's going to have a demonic form. This is simply for the skeleton. I want the resistance and I want the fire breathing, and I just need my DM to give me a little bit of leeway that I'm not going to play it like I'm a straight up dragonborn. I'm not going to, you can eventually fly. Maybe I'll use that. Maybe I won't. He's 2 different creatures, and This allows it to flavor out a little bit more. So that's why I choose Dragonborn here, which is going to make us pick our ancestry. And I'm going with red because red is usually considered the most evil of the dragons. There's chromatic and metallic dragons, and then there's others too, but the main two are chromatic, which are your basic colors, black, blue, green, red, and white. And then they're generally evil. And your metallic, your brass, bronze, copper, gold, silver, generally good. Pick some languages. I like to pick, it's not giving me this option, and you can do it randomly if you want. Roll a d12. You automatically get common. I like to have infernal and celestial because it works thematically, but they are not core. So I just put goblin and orc, figuring that Zaphon's dealt with some rough characters in the past. And here we go, our ability scores. A couple different ways you can do that. Go with point buy, where is the first one. You get 27 points, depending on how much you spend is how much you can get. Here it's a little, you can have a much more niche build. Like maybe I really wanted to go heavy in charisma and constitution, say. I can do that at the expense of two different stats, where other ways it's kind of hard. It's more evenly distributed. Well, I can't speak today. Manual rolled, very similar. You roll. I've never done this, but I think you roll 6, and then I don't know. I'm not going to try to talk you through it, but you can roll your a 20-sided die to get your scores. I prefer standard array. Standard array gives you between 8 and 15, one for each one. You can only choose one for each, and it gives a nice starting point for your character, I think. So we definitely want charisma because both warlocks and paladins use charisma as their spell casting ability, and you see that extra 2-point bonus we got. Constitution, because he is a tank, I want him to be able to stand up and take it. Now strength, I'm just going to put 13 because he's a melee character. And also just me trying to stay within the rules, since I would have, if I was a warlock and wanted to dual class into a paladin, I'd have to have 13 strength. So I just go with that. Since we are martial, we want a little bit extra help to our survivability, so we're going to put 12 in our dexterity, which brings us up to 13. And then these two can be either or. I'm going to say, since he's been around for a while, he's more wise than he is smart. He's spent more time surviving than he did studying. Once you scroll down, you'll see any of your bonuses that may be applying in your build so far, and you'll see how it kind of plays out. Your modifier that we talked about earlier, you'll see we get +1, 1, 2, -1, 0, and 3. And that will determine how our character plays during individual. Let's ban our person trying to sell us stuff. Thanks, friend. Our starting equipment, which we'll just do for the sake of it. I will tweak that later. I have to choose options. And let's just add that. And if we notice, well, we have to equip everything. Our current inventory weighs 90 pounds, but if we actually put on our backpack, jumps up, put on our heavy armor. Oh, it's we're already carrying our armor, but we want to equip these things so they're ready. The javelin, longsword, and eventually we'll have our bound trident and our shield. Okay. We do wind up with some gold. We do have some, you can add some personal possessions, and it should show our pack. Oh, I guess that's up here. We have stuff in our pack: pouches, rations, robes, tools, tinder boxes, just stuff you need day-to-day adventuring. All right. Now we've come to the end. We've thrown everything together. Now we actually get to see what our character looks like. And there we go. Doesn't look the same as the paper character sheet I showed you, but all the same information's there. Right up top, we see our race and our classes, our current character level, our class levels, our stats with our modifiers, our proficiency bonus at level 10. We can move 30 feet per turn. Heroic inspiration, that's a mechanic thing, you can ask about that. Our hit points, got to roll a 19 or better in order to do damage on us. We get a little bit of bonus in where we go in turn order. And you see all our skill modifiers, all of our weapons, our spells. Everything's kind of coming together now. And I'm not going to get into all of it. I just want you to be able to see it. Since it's digital, everything's kind of on one page. You just have these different tabs. Okay. And then from there, I will just leave it up to you and the game that you do find. Find one of these beginner games, and they'll walk you through each of these sheets. And that's our character. I hope this can be of use to somebody. I know it was for me. Made me think of the character again because I need to get this finalized before the game. And hopefully he's fun to play, because that's, at the end of the day, why play a game? Why play anything if you're not trying to have fun with it? So hopefully you find a way to have fun in your game if you're interested. And look for D&D Beyond. Look at Start Playing, another website that a lot of the DMs use is called Roll20. Has a lot of the similar things D&D Beyond. It's just not sponsored by Wizards of the Coast that make Dungeons and Dragons. And there's other sites that game masters will use to help their game immersion. Foundry is one of them off the top of my head. So there's a start. Get on Start Playing. Find a game. Have somebody help you walk you through how to play, and have fun. There's nothing else I can tell you. It's just have fun. So with that, see ya.